Hey everyone, thanks for watching our shows.
We want to hit 1 million subscribers, so we'd love for you to help us out. Hit that subscribe button and get us there.
And make sure to follow us on Instagram to stay up to date with the latest giveaways and contests.
Now stay tuned for more tech that you can use.
Believe it or not, the AMC 304 has a lot of hidden potential.
Today, we're going to find it.
Ooh, that's clean right there. Hey everyone, welcome to Engine Power. Recently we did a project for the guys down in Carcass that involved an engine that was not actually part of the big three, but was still once a major player in the automotive industry. It was our AMC 258 cubic inch inline six that we refreshed, added some bolt-on performance parts, and dubbed the project Aerosol Overhaul. We ran it on the dyno and it made some impressive power for the simple work we did. Oddly enough, we have yet another AMC in the building. This is the engine out of Detroit Muscle's Javelin, which we did have some fun with in the parking lot and on the chassis dyno, where it made a staggering 130 horsepower. As with any project, plans sometimes change. So instead of making a big horsepower combination, they have decided to retain the stock engine, which is a 304 cubic inch V8 that we will give a little bit of love and make them a nice street driver. We have some parts here and some are on the way, but we're not even sure if this engine has been cracked open yet, so it's time for us to find out. Let's get started. All right, when I said let's get started, that means you get started and I'll go find a box for the old parts.
All right, sounds good. Even though this engine did not make a lot of power on the chassis dyno, and we are getting a lot of new parts for it, we're gonna be super careful taking it apart, because when you take an engine apart, you can actually see what the life of the engine was and if it had any failures, and that's really important so that we can avoid that when we put it back together.
Look at this nasty thing. What even is that?
You really start learning about an engine once you crack open the top end. Although we knew this engine would show its age, we were still surprised by what we found.
I got the hard part done.
Yep, almost ready for this thing to come off.
All right.
Ooh,
Oh, that was...
it's easy.
Look at that. Ooh. Holy moly.
Yeah.
We've been getting some doozies lately here. The funny thing was...
I mean, it'll clean up.
It'll clean up, yeah, but it ran
Yeah.
decent. Yep, you just get it right under there and... Oh! Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
This wins the award for the nastiest one we've done on them.
Yeah, look at that.
Look at all this stuff that's balled up there.
Yeah.
Oop.
Build up.
I don't know if it's the quality oil, but what makes it do something like that?
It's got to be the old oil in it.
But it's balled up or something.
Yeah. There wasn't a lot of oil left in the pan, and what was there was cooked.
You can see somebody tried to scrape the inside of this one, look. It was an attempt
Didn't do much help.
As an attempt at cleaning way back when. All right. The funny thing is, even ones that look this nasty on the outside, if there's no oil in the combustion chamber, it means they were relatively sealed up well. It didn't smoke when it was on the dyno.
The cylinders look decent, with some crosshatch pattern remaining. We noticed a ridge had developed near the top of each cylinder, and this block definitely needs honing. The lifters came out pretty easy, and other than some expected wear, they looked okay.
The main bearings were shot. Say I've seen where it's got a little bit of copper. What worries me is that transfer on the backside. That's never good to see. If you can see copper, get a new set. Look at the skirt. So
Yeah, that's way better than I thought it was going to look like.
that is way better than I thought it would be, considering the condition of the rest of everything.
Yeah.
The pistons are in decent shape. If we were just rebuilding the engine, we could reuse them. A little ridge on the top there.
Yep.
Oh. Whoever owned this engine certainly got their money's worth from these bearings. They've lived a long, hard life. Here you go. It's just been overheated, nasty. The main housing has been line honed instead of just cut with tooling. We don't know if this was done at the factory, but if so, that's impressive. The surface looks nice. I mean, look at that. It's quite possible since we found AMC stamping on the bearings.
Up next, after a complete rebuild and a couple of serious upgrades, the 304 will be roadworthy again. I'm here with Team Summit NHRA funny car driver Tim Wilkerson. Now Tim, as well as a driver, you're also an accomplished engine builder, both for street and strip engines.
Yeah, Frankie, I think you're giving me a little bit of benefit of the doubt there. I got a lot of folks that work for me that are really good at doing this, but I put a lot of them together over the last 30 years.
Yeah, so would you say that when you're building an engine, no matter whether it's for the street or the strip, a low end to a high end race build, are the processes pretty much the same?
Oh, sure. Everything based on measurements, right? I mean, we live and die on thousandths of an inch building engines. From your old conventional torque wrench to just a click style, now we have really sophisticated ones that have digital gauges in them, because some things we have to do, they'll give you a torque spec and you have to go 90 degrees past that. It's hard to do that with an old style torque wrench.
Yeah, so like the dial bore gauge here, we're going to use this to measure cylinders. And this is like a very precise tool.
Sure,
so that's something we, I'm kind of catching a theme here that precision is a very big part about this.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you know as well as I do, this micrometer here, you get this within a couple of tenths. So we're measuring crankshafts, we're measuring, anything that you can get into a round area. That's going to be a very crucial tool to use, right? We use these in our machine shop every day, like these ring compressors. You have two different styles here. This is kind of an economy style. This one here is made for just exactly this exact bore, this 4155 bore. So all these tools, there's a lot of parameters in them for people that are building their own engines at home or the professionals.
So Tim, the guys at home can take cues from the pros in order to assemble their engine with the same attention to detail.
Yeah, you sure can. It really doesn't matter what you're working on.
With the AMC 304 completely apart, the rebuild begins. First, we'll get the stock crankshaft polished up. Even though the bearings were in a bad condition, the journals were round and in decent shape. We'll check the journals with a micrometer to make sure the crank is still within spec, and then we'll use a 600 grit belt first. We're only removing a couple 10,000ths worth of material here, so it doesn't affect the sizing much at all. Next, we'll apply some polishing compound to a cork belt and finish off the journals to a better than OEM finish.
After setting up the block and the Sun and SV15 cylinder hone, we rough out the cylinders within 1/1000th of their final bore size. This takes care of the ridges we found on the cylinder walls and gets the bores sized correctly for the new pistons. For the most part, the technology of this machine is so advanced you could almost hone their cylinders to the exact size unattended. But of course, it's always a good idea to stay close to the machine and check its progress periodically. For final sizing, we switched to an 800 grit diamond abrasive. The cylinders are finished right to size with ease, while also giving them the appropriate crosshatch angle and surface finish.
After thoroughly cleaning the block, we'll install new cam bearings that are gently tapped into place. If you don't have a cam bearing installation tool, your local machine shop can do this for a reasonable price.
Next up, the new main bearings are laid into the saddle so we can check bearing clearance. After torquing down the main caps, vertical oil clearance is checked. They come out between 27 and 31 10,000ths across the board.
Rod bearing clearance checks at 24 to 27 10,000ths. The main bearings are lubed with Permatex Ultra Slick Assembly Lube, and the crankshaft goes gently into place. The ARP Main Bolts are torqued to 90 pound-feet, and crankshaft end play is checked with a dial indicator. It's in spec at 4 thousandths.
Valve train motion is provided by a Billet hydraulic roller from Comp Cams. Duration at 50 thousandths lift is 224 degrees on the intake and 230 degrees on the exhaust. Lobe separation angle is 110 degrees and lift at both valves is 513 thousandths. A new double row timing chain from Comp finishes it out.
The rings for the AMC 304 are from Total Seal. Both the top and second rings are 1/16 thick, and the oil ring pack is 3/16. Top ring gap is 20 thousandths, and the second ring gap is 22 thousandths.
All right, when filing rings, why is it a good idea when you set up to initially do all of your second ring groove rings first?
I have a guess, but why don't you just tell me and we'll see if I'm right.
Well, the reason is when you get your machine set up, if you mess up one of these, it's not as important as messing up a top one. The top gap is way more important than the second gap. The second, basically, compression ring is an oil scraper as well. So if you missed it a little bit big on the gap, no big deal. But it gets you familiar with the use of the machine. If you're grinding rings 8 hours a day for 5 days a week, you're probably going to be a little bit more savvy at it. But when you do it, each individual engine is different bore size, different ring packs. So it's always a good idea to get your groove on first with the second ring, and then do the top ring so your gap's right.
Yeah, so basically get your setup done on the second ring so that when you get to the top ring, which is the important one, it's all good to go.
Right, and make sure
Makes sense, yeah.
they are deburred. The biggest thing when it messes up the cylinder is the edge of the ring.
Yep.
You just gotta basically break it. I use an India stone for that. And if you just break that edge, it won't gnash up the cylinder. Yep, it will not scrape the cylinder. The OEM replacement pistons are 37 thousandths in the hole. Static compression is a meager 8.3 to 1. We degree the cam next. The intake center line comes in at 106 degrees, which is 4 degrees advanced. Up next, if the cylinder heads you want to run will not fit, make them fit.
The AMC 304 is almost ready for the dyno cell. We've just got a few more things to take care of, starting with the oil pump.
One of the unique features of the AMC that we are working on is that the oil pump is contained in the timing cover. A few other engines have the same design, but what makes it unique is you don't have a complete oil pump to replace if one is bad. You have to replace the cover if this thing is junk. Fortunately, ours was in good shape, so we chose to rebuild it. We picked up a rebuild kit from Summit Racing, and it contains a few parts, like a new set of gears, a new relief valve, a new pressure spring, and a new gasket. It is as simple as taking the old parts out and putting the new parts in to get it back together. We'll use high viscosity assembly grease during the rebuild. It's important that the relief valve slides freely in the filter housing. Make sure the housing is clean and free of burrs. After installing the gasket, the housing is torqued to 18 pound-feet.
Our pistons receive a coating of Total Seal assembly lube and then are gently tapped into the block using a tapered ring compressor.
How are you clocking the rings on that?
Top one on the pin, second compression on the other side of the pin, and then the oil rings next to it.
Very nice. Do you know what causes the rings all to line up? Because like if you pull one apart and the rings are all lined up?
Yeah, that should be the bores out around because they all want to center in the spot where it's open.
Correct. Bore geometry is what the problem is. If you pull out rings and they're all lined up, someone didn't install them that way.
Yeah.
They stopped at that place.
After torquing down the rod caps, rod bolt stretch is checked. It's all good at 57 10/1000ths. The old steel core plugs had rotted out, so we're replacing them with brass ones from Summit Racing.
Got the oil slinger in there?
I knew I was forgetting something. I'm like, what am I forgetting?
After giving the timing cover a fresh paint job and making sure the oil slinger is put back in, it's bolted into place. The oil pickup assembly is unusual because it threads into the block instead of the oil pump itself. Oil pickup to oil pan clearance is checked to make sure it is between 1/4 and 3/8 of an inch. The Milodon stock replacement pan is secured by stainless ARP fasteners. We are to the point where we are installing the induction side on our 304 project. We wanted to run a set of big valve aluminum heads, so we picked up a set of Edelbrock Performer RPM 401 cylinder heads. They feature a 2020 intake valve, 1600 exhaust, and a 54cc combustion chamber. They also have a 185cc intake runner. The problem with them are they only are supposed to fit on something that is 4080 bore or larger. Obviously, our bore size is 3810, 60 thousandths over stock. They will physically bolt on the engine, so with some careful measurement and clearancing for the intake valve side, they will work. If this is something you are not comfortable doing yourself, this is something you should take to a machine shop to have done.
Edelbrock's instructions call for sealant around the oil drain backs to prevent an external leak. With new Felpro gaskets in place, the heads get cinched down. No sealant is required on the bolts because they do not go into the water jacket. We torque our ARP fasteners in 3 steps to a final torque value of 100 pound-feet. Even for an engine as unique as this, we easily found everything we needed at Summit Racing Equipment. After taping off the engine, it receives a coat of primer, followed by gloss red engine enamel.
The Comp hydraulic roller lifters drop into place, followed by their new push rods. Harland Sharp 1.6 ratio rocker arms round out the valve train. They are adjusted to 1/2 turn past 0 lash. The intake is an Edelbrock ProFlow 4 port fuel injection system. This adds modern drivability and tunability to this classic engine. Finally, it's topped off with our sandblasted and painted valve covers.
The ProFlow 4 system comes with a touchscreen tablet. It connects to the ECU via Bluetooth and has an intuitive setup wizard, so our initial startup is very easy. Up next, we promised the Detroit Muscle Crew big power gains on their 304.
Today, we deliver.
If it sounds that killer there, oh, it's gonna be amazing.
With the EFI system taken care of, we'll break in the engine and make some dyno runs.
Oh my goodness, this is fun.
I can't get over how easy it was. I mean, we literally just
That was super easy.
Yeah. Went through the setup real quick. It fired right up, set the timing, and then set IAC. And
that's a lot of nice engineering
really nice.
for having something like that.
Yeah.
That easy to set up. And true port fuel injection, right?
Yeah.
Throttle bodies are nice. You can do throttle body injections. They program nice, but this is a different animal. You know, this is true. You know, multi-port fuel injection on a 70s engine.
Yeah.
Oh, it's still cold in here. The engine is checked for any leaks or loose connections. Everything looks good.
We'll top it off on oil. Here we go. Ooh, that's clean right there.
Well made.
Good oil pressure.
Oh!
All right.
Look at that.
First out of the box, 328 horsepower at 5,400 and 329 pound-feet of torque at 4748.
I'm surprised. I honestly thought it was going to be a little bit lower, like somewhere around 300.
This thing only has 8.34 to 1 compression.
Yeah, that was what was worrying me, but apparently those heads are heads are working.
What did it have for timing that whole time?
34 total, so we could stick some in it. Do you want to?
What's the fuel?
Fuel was 12.8 the entire time.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do fuel first. I know that's counterintuitive, but let's lean the fuel out to 13.3, 13.4 at wide open throttle.
Okay.
Our timing is nice. I think we're going to leave it there. We're going to keep this thing safe, but I think we can maybe fetzer with the fuel a little bit and see if we can do something a little bit more with it. So, all right.
Yeah, I'll try that first.
Okay, so we're 329 at 5,500. So it made a little bit more power higher. Let's not make any change to any of that and let's just turn it 6,000
Yeah.
to see. Well, let's turn it higher.
Yeah.
Oh, that was clean.
Nice. That was super clean. Wow.
334 horse at 5,500.
Dang, that is sweet.
And 331 pound-feet of torque at 4,800. The power is not cratering off.
No.
The oil pressure goes up the whole time. The manifold vacuum is almost none.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's much more we can do with it. Tommy's playing it cool, but we know that he's excited to hear this engine run. Well, what do you think?
Man, that thing sounds healthy.
For a 304,
I know it's a little baby cubic inch, but it doesn't sound baby cubic inch.
it's got as much chop as a 304 can have. Right there, 337 horse at 5,500. It actually made nice torque as well. It made 333 at 4,700.
Man, that's really good for that little bitty cubic inch that it is.
Well, now in 74, I think these were rated at 210 horsepower, and we know exactly what it made on the chassis.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
I think we could safely say we probably doubled it at the tire. So
this thing's a runner now. She's gonna be
it's
nice.
a runner now. So.
Man, I can't wait to get it in the car. You know, we're gonna probably do some pretty cool exhaust up under it. So if it sounds that killer there, oh, it's gonna be amazing.
This is a hell of a nice running engine.
I know last time you done like a one-wheel pill, but now maybe with this bigger motor, we can get both of them.
I think so. I'm gonna let you do the torture testing on it. So,
all right, buddy.
All right, man.
See y'all.
To find out more about anything you've seen today, check out PowerNationTV.com.